All right, good evening. It's about 7 p.m. We're going to enter our work session, but prior to that, we have an interview. Carol Babbitt Spears, wishing to be reappointed to the Affordable Housing Collaborative. Come on up.
Good evening, members of the board and neighbors.
Carol, welcome.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you here. If you just want to walk us through your experience on the Affordable Housing Collaborative, some of the challenges you face, some of the accomplishments that you've had since being there, and sort of what you see going forward for the future on the board.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Callie Babbitt Spears. I've been a member of the board for the past 2 years. I've been a South Kingston resident for about 10 and a half years now. The challenges that I have faced were just not finding something that was either safe or affordable. I knew that sharing my experiences would hopefully open, the town's perspective and open the lenses a little wider to understand that living in South Kingstown, I don't think I would be able to afford it if I weren't on certain, if I did it by myself, I wouldn't be able to afford $2,000 for a 2-bedroom. Knowing that there are resources and that there are, I can't think of the word, I'm sorry, programs you can be on that would allow that. But not a lot of people know about the programs. It could be very stressful just going through the process. I also work on at the legislative level for Rhode Islanders for safe and affordable housing. So, yeah,
All right, thank you.
I don't know if there's any other questions you'd like to
Sure,
ask.
we may have some. Any questions from council members? No? Well, we appreciate your service. We think you bring valuable input to the board, and we hope you'll be reappointed, but you should find out relatively soon. So thank you
so
for your
much.
participation.
Thank you.
All right, that wraps up interviews tonight. Now we're going to enter the work session. Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Council President. Go right to licenses. There's a request for a special event permit to conduct the Endless Summer Festival on Saturday, the 27th, 4 to 11, at the Contemporary Theater Company in Main Street in Wakefield. They're expecting approximately 1,000 people throughout the day, about 334 vehicles. And I reviewed the application. Doesn't seem to be anything out of order. I have no concerns as part of the operations or the safety of the town. So if you have any questions on that, you can, I'll answer them. If you don't, okay, great.
Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah.
So just a quick question. Will the street be blocked off, like for other block parties, or is it just the event's going to take place where the Contemporary Theater is?
There are no street or parking lot closures.
No street or parking lot?
Closures, right.
Closures.
It'll take place on the property of both Phil's and the CDC with gates, entrances, with staff doing all the permitting.
Thank you.
Next is a consent agenda that nothing unusual with that one at all. That's a renewal, Susan? That is a renewal on that license. There's a public hearing about the alternate for the zoning board, And that will go along with 12A, with this will be, have to go on a local referendum on the ballot November 8th, as requested by the Secretary of State. That is for the alternate for the zoning board.
Mike, I got a few questions for you in regard to this. Why are we doing this? We can't get a quorum at these meetings?
Yeah, my understanding has been it's been a very large issue in terms of having enough individuals there, and meetings have been postponed or canceled because of the lack of either sitting members or alternates. It may very well be that that's in the past, although Susan's telling me it's they've been pretty good recently. But this will just give you the, number one, it's a good thing for a lot of reasons. Number one, it'll give us the opportunity not to have to postpone meetings going forward. Number two, it's great to have alternates out there listening and participating, for that matter, even though they don't get to vote, because it gets them ready for when individuals retire from the board and you're ready to move someone up. So there's a lot going for it. Other towns have done this also. It just required a couple of things. It required General Assembly enabling legislation to go from 2 to 3. And interestingly, with South Kingstown's charter, all charters talk about zoning boards. I don't know of any other one that actually sets the number of alternates at 2. So since we're moving it to 3, and that's our recommendation to you, it's also going to have to go on the ballot. But that's sort of pro forma, because once you get the general enabling legislation, you're fine. But this way, right after the November election, will give you the opportunity to go ahead and appoint.
Thank you.
Next is under 8A, communication. It's the only communication referenced this evening. Ms. Liz Karp is submitting a resignation from the Affordable Housing Collaborative Committee. That would leave, Susan, that would leave 3 vacancies, correct?
It's going to create vacancy number 2. And we just this morning received an email from Alicia Johnson, who you were supposed to interview this evening, about reappointment. Her term expires in August, and she has indicated that she, for personal reasons, needs to step down immediately. So that would be the 3rd vacancy on that board. And as you know, Liz Karp stepped down because you appointed her to the planning board at the last meeting.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll go right to the town manager's report. There'll be 3 items, not 2, that I will speak about tonight. The first one is something that has been widely discussed by the residents of this town, and that's Old Tower Hill Road, which has quite honestly become very unsightly, in some respects unsafe, and because of the fencing that came down. But there is a remedy to it. DOT, Rhode Island DOT, has been contacted on 3 occasions by me personally. They've been very helpful in the remedy that we will undertake, and I could go over that now, or I can go over it later. But basically, it comes down to I've met with the DOT once on a Zoom call. The deputy director has come to the town on 2 occasions, and I walked it with him last week, and we went over every one of the 24 retention basins, as well as the center medians, and took pictures, videos, and came up with a plan of how this can be remediated. Basically, only 2 can be salvaged. The other 22 have to be, not the infrastructure ripped out, but the vegetation. And I'll go over later why that vegetation is there. It's supposed to be a natural filtration system similar to like a sand filter. But in some respect it worked, sometimes it didn't. And whether it was put in at the wrong time or not is uncertain. But DOT has vowed to not only remedy it, but to for upkeep in perpetuity, to make sure that it looks nice and it looks good for the town. Second issue that I'll speak about is the townwide water ban. That's also very widely discussed here in town. A lot of questions have come up about that. John Chalk is here to discuss this, and with us, and he has a presentation with about 2 or 3 slides with a map that you have in front of you. And I will give a brief overview in layman's terms, and then we'll turn it over to the engineers to discuss it in detail. It's talked about widely in town. I mean, it's a national issue. Just in the paper today, Lake Mead, which supplies the water supply to Arizona, Nevada, and California, is only at 27% capacity. It's an issue across the United States. South Kingston is not exempt from this. So what's the difference here versus other places? And John gave me a lot of this information. I'm not an engineer or pretend to be one. But other places in the state have an open body of water that they can draw on very quickly, and it's replenished pretty much naturally through rivers and rain and so forth. Here, we rely on our water from wells. Even though it's purchased, that's where it comes from. So the question comes up, should we put another well or more than one well? The aquifer that supplies most of the water, the Chappuxet aquifer, already runs in a deficit. So to put a well in a body of water that already runs at a deficit doesn't accomplish anything. The second question comes up, should we put a new tower to store water? The way it was described to me was that might solve a problem that we have in the summer, but it could create another problem in the winter, because now you have an abundance of water and it's not flushing through the system quickly enough, where it could create some contamination issues if it sits there for too long. One of the big issues, and even if we were to apply for a well, DEM probably would never allow it, because it would be, if we're mentioning it's for outdoor water use, it's not. It's for home use or it's for agricultural use only. We do have 3 wells that are in the Green Hill area that are capped. They've been capped since the town started purchasing water in 2002 from Suez. And the reason they're capped, and they provided 1.2 million gallons of water per day to the town. About 5.9 million comes from the other sources. Would it solve the problem? No, but it would help a lot. But why aren't they open? The filtration system could not give pure water, and this way it was shut right down once Suez started supplying the water. So that is something that the discussion needs to be had with our congressional delegation to discuss ways that the town could get funding to put a filtration system on those 3 wells in Green Hill, which is a different aquifer, which could really help the town long term. So that's a discussion I had this week with the Chief of Staff, Senator Reed's office. I know Councilwoman Kelso had that conversation. We just talked about it with Senator Reed a while ago. So this is a discussion that will continue. But once again, that's the layman's terms of what's going on, and Mr. Schock will come up and explain that. I would also like to add, his 36 years in with the town, this is his last meeting, so we'll recognize him at the open meeting for everything he's done for this town for all those years. The third thing that I'll talk about, and even though it's not on the town manager's report, because it's the town manager's report, I can add things if they happen after this is published. And so one of them is this came up this week on the crisis intervention team, which I know a couple of the members of the town council were aware of it. So this type of training is used to de-escalate very tense situations, especially involving mental health. Quite honestly, in the old days, there was no such training, and people that did have a mental health crisis were usually arrested, charged with disorderly conduct. That's a long time ago. We've come a long way since then. All our police officers have this crisis intervention team training, CIT it's called. It's worked very well. And when Chief Moynihan briefed me on it, because we had gotten feedback from Ms. Gledhill about how pleased she was with it, that he just said, we use this every day. So even though that one particular instance that happened last Wednesday occurred, it was mitigated, and that person got the resources they needed without being charged, that's a great thing, but it's used like that often. So it's a very good program, and we should be proud that SK has this type of training to help in these type of areas. If we go to new business, so that relates to the public hearing we talked about, 12A. 12B is the accepting the lawsuit that was filed by Ms. Savastano to the town. 12C is a bid to Stillman Uniforms for soft body armor. Soft body armor has a built-in shelf life of about 5 years. There's an expiration date right on it. And it has a shelf life because of sweat that police officers, when they wear it, separates the material. They don't last forever. They're very expensive, but they're critical to any police officer that works. So they're greatly needed. But the federal government has been very helpful in supplying these to police officers across the country. There's a 50% grant and a 50% drug forfeiture funds. So the 50% grant comes from the feds. It's a pass-through to public safety grants at the state police. Half of that pays for our vest. The other half comes from drug forfeiture money, which we have in a separate account. So they're very expensive, though. Once again, they range from $1,000 to $2,000 each. $12D. HVAC for the town hall chambers. So, long awaited, and it appears to be very reasonably priced. Is some split systems. Mr. Mark Russo, our facilities manager, will be here to discuss any questions you might have. Some of the questions that came up are, because this is a building from 1877, would it change the appearance? Would those three systems really cool this chamber? And I was given all the right answers, but Mr. Russo can answer specifically if you had any when he's here, and if you have any questions on that. $12E, bus transportation for Parks and Rec. That's for the Discovery Camp and the Safety First Camp. 12F, resurfacing for the tennis and basketball courts, another Parks and Rec agenda item. 12G, subcontractor services for municipal excavation. This, in reading this, this helps it's a subcontractor that the town certifies with its fees, but also when people hook up to the water system, new customers for the South Shore Middlebridge water system, they could utilize this at a reasonable cost. It's a 2-year contract put on by Public Services. A poll request, 12H. I, EMS. It's an adjustment to the fee schedule. Question I had, why does this have to go before the council? And the answer is because it's a fee schedule, it has to go before the council. So that's why you'll see this here. Mr. Stanley's here, the director, to answer any questions you might have on that fee schedule. $12J. 12J, K, both have to do with equipment for public services. So a new asphalt roller is requested at a cost of $20,250. The one it's replacing is 2002, has 1,143 hours. It's no longer manufactured, can't be repaired. It's very problematic. It's really needed by public works. 12K is a skid steer, and that is the one it's replacing is a 99 Bobcat with 2,110 hours. and this will be used to offload trailer trucks, plowing, removal snow. There's another one you'll see, I'm jumping ahead a little, but for a, I'll go back to M, 12M and L, but 12N is for a dump truck, $216,000. And the reason I bring that up, I go to Public Works often, at least a couple of times a week, to go see the people that are working there, and I physically look at some of these trucks. They're not asking for anything they don't need. I can assure you that. Everything they're asking for, they need it badly, and especially this truck, even though it only has 80,000 miles, the thing's very tired. The body's rotted out. These new trucks have stainless steel bodies, so I would support any one of those. And if you have any questions, I could answer them at any time if you'd like. 12L and M. I met with the tax assessor today on this, who's doing very well, by the way. He's very happy to be here, and he's really lived up to all the expectations I've had. He separated these. One's for tangible property, and one's for the settlement from South County Commons. And our solicitor could comment more on that, but that's why the number is so big on the 12M. It's because of the settlement back in April, I believe. The council looked at it, and that's why that number is very high. You'll see on closed executive session what that's all about. Someone asked me about that. That is required for me to go in executive session by June 30th or as close to July 1st, just to discuss the upcoming year. There's nothing unusual with that.
All right, thank you, Jim. Any questions from the members for the manager at this time? Seeing none? All right, we'll enter a recess for about 8 minutes. Thank you.
did it come? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. The policy. Yes. I got Peter and Amy looking at that. Oh, good. Yeah, we're looking at it. Oh, yeah. That's why. I sent it on to. We're not going to. Yeah, we're not going to. I hope whatever that issue is. There you go.
Good evening. Welcome to Town Hall. It's around 7:30 p.m. on Monday, July 25th. First order of business is the pledge to the flag.
Pledge allegiance
Before we move on, I just want to ask respectfully if you could silence your phones to eliminate or mitigate any distractions up here, that would be appreciated. But next on the order of business here is the land acknowledgement statement, which I will read. The town of South Kingstown pays homage to the indigenous people and land on which the town is now located. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of our ongoing efforts to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Narragansett tribe whose land and water we benefit from today. Next, we have the roll call. Susan?
Council President McEntee,
Here.
Council Vice President Collins,
Here.
Councilwoman Bergner,
Here.
Councilwoman Kelso,
Here.
Councilwoman Rose.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Next, we have item 4, which is approval of minutes of previous meetings.
I make a motion to approve item 4A and B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed?
I'll recuse.
One recusal? All right, that motion passes 4-0. Next, we have item 5, the consent agenda.
Motion to approve 5, consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That's going to bring us to item 6, licenses. 6A is a resolution granting a special event permit to conduct the Endless Summer Festival on Saturday, August 27, 2022, from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. at 321 to 327 Main Street to the Contemporary Theater Company of Main Street, Rhode Island, Wakefield, subject to departmental approvals. Application by Christopher Simpson. Chris, are you here? If you are, come on up. Or if anyone is here to speak on this matter, feel free to come on up. All right. Jim, Susan, have we heard anything from Chris in regard to this?
He
I have
had a
not.
meeting, but he was supposed to get here or send someone else in his place, so maybe he's just running late.
Okay. All right, so we'll keep moving along and potentially revisit this. All right, that's going to bring us to item 7, public hearing. 7A is a public hearing to consider proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance that would add a third alternate member to the Zoning Board of Review as follows. Proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance, Article 9, Administration, Enforcement, and Relief, Section 906, Zoning Board of Review. B, membership. The zoning board shall consist of 5 members appointed by the town council, each to hold office for the term of 5 years, provided, however, that the original appointment shall be made for terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years, respectively. The board shall also include 3 alternates to be appointed by the town council, to be designated as the first, second, and third alternate members for terms of 5 years. These alternate members shall sit and may actively participate in meetings. The first alternate shall vote if a member of the board is unable to serve at a hearing, and the second shall vote if 2 members of the board are unable to serve at a hearing, and the third shall vote if 3 members of the board are unable to serve at a hearing. In the absence of the first alternate member, the second alternate member shall serve in the position of the first alternate. In the absence of the second alternate member, the third alternate shall serve in the position of the second alternate. No member or alternate may vote on any matter before the board unless they have attended all hearings concerning such matter. No member or alternate may participate in any way whatsoever on any matter for which they would have a conflict of interest as defined by the Rhode Island law and the Rhode Island Ethics Commission. This ordinance shall take effect upon passage. So this is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak on this, feel free to come on up. We just ask you first identify yourself, and we'd like to limit you to 5 minutes. So, with that said, first come, first serve. Seeing none, Mike, go ahead.
Just by way of explanation, all this amendment is doing is allowing the council to appoint a third alternate member to the zoning board. This will accomplish 2 things. Number 1, it'll ensure or hope to ensure that our meetings always have the minimum 5 members present in order to hear cases and make decisions. And number 2, it'll serve as good education and training for those who are serving as alternates who someday may move up to a permanent position. So I'd recommend passage. And we did, by the way, we did receive General Assembly approval signed by the governor to permit the town to do this.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions from members? We'll go again. Anyone from the audience like to speak? Seeing none, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I just have one question. So do the alternates attend all of the meetings?
They are
They're asked to?
Yes, they are asked to attend, and they are able to actually participate, ask questions, etc. They can't vote unless they're sitting in place of one of the 5 permanent members.
So it could be 4 regular members show up and you use alternate 1?
That is the way it would work.
And would alternate 2 ever be used if alternate 1 couldn't be used? Or is
We've
it?
had that situation, yes.
Okay, and so sometimes you don't have enough depth in the,
That's
Okay.
correct. Due to vacations, illness, whatever.
COVID.
Yeah.
Yep.
And since it's a critical board, as you know, all of their meetings are advertised, all their meetings notices generally given to those within 200 feet. So a lot of people are showing up. So you want to try to avoid at all costs having to postpone or cancel the meetings. This will help prevent any of that in the future.
And Mike, just to clarify, the number of members are identified in the town charter for this board, and any change requires
Right.
this to go to a ballot, sort of a referendum.
Yes. So when you're finished with this hearing, when you get to 12A, that is a new business item, placing this issue on the ballot for approval of the residents to change the charter from 2 to 3, because it just so happens that our charter specifies 2 alternates. Now, having said that, because we did receive general enabling legislation to do this, we're good, but in South Kingstown, because we have that charter provision, we're also going to send it to the voters during the November 8th election.
So then, Mike, this cannot take effect.
Till after November 8th, right?
Got it. Thank you. All right. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
motion, so moved.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Do I hear a motion on 7A?
Motion to approve item 7A.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That's going to bring us to communication. Okay, Chris, welcome. We're going to move back to item 6A. Come on up, Chris. A resolution granting a special event permit to conduct the Endless Summer Festival on Saturday, August 27, 2022, from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. at 321 to 327 Main Street to the Contemporary Theater Company. Chris, welcome.
Welcome. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I ran to get here. On my way out my door, I got stung by a bee, and I now found out that I'm late to my own meeting, so I'm really sorry. Thank you for coming back to the agenda item. We appreciate it. Yeah, I could. You never know. Very scary. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to speak just briefly. This is an event that's happened 5 years previous. We stopped for COVID, of course. The Wakefield Village Association used to produce the event, but they're refocusing on business activities, beautification, instead of larger parties and events and things of that nature, community gatherings. So the theater has been asked to sort of take this event on, and nothing about the event is changing from past instances. We're just a new organization putting it together for the community.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. I think we're all familiar with it. We're looking forward to it. It's always a great thing. Brings a lot of people into town. But any questions from members? Deb?
Hi. So some people are just concerned about parking and how you'll sort of manage the parking, because I guess there's concerns about Lake Street. People are parking up Lake Street, and so then it becomes difficult to pass. Is there any way that you could put signs, better signage, directing people where to park, and where are you expecting people to come and park?
Absolutely. So I'm just coming into some of this knowledge myself recently, but over the last 5 years, the Village Association developed a plan for Oktoberfest that involved posting, no parking signs on some of the residential neighborhoods, on the telephone poles, on the street signs, also along all of Main Street, High Street, River Street, Robinson, Kenyon, to notify folks, days in advance that this event is coming. And I think what I've learned, the Endless Summer event previously had been given a little bit less of that regard. So our intent is to take all of the Oktoberfest planning, which also includes procuring several hundred parking spots from neighboring businesses as far out as the high school, all up and down this particular area. In fact, even this lot is usually, there's some communication, and that process is underway. And I think that for Endless Summer, which is the smaller of the two events, also that plan that has been implemented before with a little bit more consideration being added now should be adequate to address all those concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Any other questions from members? All right. Do I hear a motion on this item?
Motion to approve item 6A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Good luck, Chris. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you very much. And I also just wish to invite all present. We're having a grand opening party for our new expanded facilities on the outdoor patio balconies this Thursday evening at 6 o'clock. Everyone present of all nature is more than welcome to be there. So thank you.
See you there.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to move us to communications. Item 8A. An email dated July 14, 2022 from Liz Karp submitting her resignation from the Affordable Housing Collaborative Committee.
Motion to approve. Motion to accept this communication from Liz Karp and send her a letter of thanks for her service on the committee.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, just Susan, as vacancies seem to be a continual thing, is it possible that you could email or contact any of the past applicants and say 8 months or 9 months to say, here are the list of the vacancies we have. Are you interested in any of these? Because I feel like some of these, it's just a revolving door. People are always dropping and then we're always adding. And I feel there might be not enough forward progress if we didn't try to fill them up, keep them full.
We may be able to look at that. It's probably also just about due to put in another quarterly advertisement in the newspaper, which also gets pushed out to the town website and social media.
Is it possible
Do
just
some recruiting that way.
Is it possible just to keep a list and just email the 10 or 20 people that might not be chosen for a particular board or commission and say, there are other ones, are you interested in?
We do keep applications on file for a year, so anybody within that year's time that did not get appointed to another board, we could reach out to them and see if they were interested in another board that had a vacancy, even if it wasn't the original one they were applying for, if that's what you're asking.
I think so. It's really hard to hear you with the...
Sorry.
I know. I don't want you to do that, but I just can't fully understand every word.
All applications for boards are kept for a year. If they don't get appointed, obviously. When we do have vacancies on a particular board, we would always reach back out to the people who had applied to that board during the past year but didn't get appointed. Are you asking that we reach out to anyone who applied for any board that didn't get appointed and see if they were interested in other boards that have a vacancy?
For example, we had 2 applicants to the planning board that were strong applicants, strong community members, and now we have 2 vacancies on the Affordable Housing Collaborative. You know, we have a vacancy on the Zoning Board of Review. They may be now interested in pivoting over or being, putting their name in for consideration. So just maintaining sort of an email list of saying, here are the current vacancies. Should you be interested, reach out to us, confirm back.
Potentially, we could explore this in a way that's not administratively burdensome.
Yes. Thank you. Just an idea, because I feel like we're constantly, like the Affordable Housing Collaborative is now short 2 people, and we're going to be cycling through it again. And so if I were already on that board or commission, I might feel like I'm here, but we don't have enough inertia to move forward on initiatives. So I'm just trying to fill them up. And
So, Susan, maybe you could just update us at the next meeting whether this is feasible, how this can work, whether you figured out a way to make it work.
I'll take a look at who's
Thank you.
not been appointed and see what we can come up with.
Excellent.
thank you.
All right, so we are still on item 8A. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That's going to bring us to item 9, comments from interested citizens. At this point, anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on any matter whatsoever, feel free to come on up. We just ask that you identify yourself, and we'll try to limit you to 5 minutes. So come on up. First come, first serve.
Hello, Gary Chapman, Wakefield. I come tonight to talk about what's concerning many people in town is the water ban. And so I guess the town manager is going to talk about that in his report. So I would ask that, if you permit me, I would like to not talk now and come up again when that comes up.
Gary, maybe you could sort of identify your questions now, and then hopefully when we get to that, which is next, they will address them all.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to identify the questions without knowing, what the situation is in town. So I would rather have the town manager explain what is going on and why, and then I could respond from there.
All right.
Okay.
We'll allow it, Gary.
Thank you.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, regular residents have questions that they don't have all the information. It kind of can correct some of the misconceptions people have.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it's probably going to provide more education than less,
Yep.
and less confusion.
Yep. All right. Anyone else like to come up and speak? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Karen Ramsey, and I've been a homeowner in South Kingstown since 1984, and I've never spoken at a town council meeting, but...
Oh, could you just bring the microphone a little closer?
Sure.
Thank you.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. Never spoken at a town council meeting before, but as Mr. Chapman said, and as Mr. Manny said, there's a lot of concern about the water situation. And being here as long as I've been here, Houston, we have a problem. South Kingstown, we have a water problem. I am very anxious to hear what will be said, but I've done a little research on my own and what I've come up with. I have a fact sheet, concern sheet, and questions. I recommend that you look at these resources and reports to become more aware of the seriousness of the water supply and accessibility as they affect our neighborhoods. We built a modest house on a modest lot, and over the years, like so many of our neighbors, we've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in improving our property and make them our own piece of paradise, sanctuaries in what has become a very crazy world. Although we were able to maintain our properties in the past, we can no longer do so. As has been the case the last too many summers, we have a complete outdoor water ban in the Veolia, previously Suez, previously United Water District as of July 11th. It's not a surprise demand that has arisen since it's become a perennial reality for us. Every July, a ban is imposed. There is not a drought. Our water source is groundwater, not a reservoir. Groundwater levels in June were normal, and you can see on the fact sheet, I got that from the Water Resource Board. My understanding is the water for our water district comes from the Mink Brook Aquifer. I'm hoping that that's either confirmed or corrected. Residents up the street from where I live do not have any kind of water ban. They, too, get their water from an aquifer, the Chapuxet. But the Kingston Water District has sufficient water supply and delivery system for their customers. South Kingstown, we have a water problem. The infrastructure upon which our water delivery depends is inadequate. It does not meet the needs of its current customers. Yet we continue to develop and put additional burdens on this already insufficient water system. From South Road via Curtis Corner in Saugatucket, within a mile, there are 3 developments, one to the west of Curtis Corner Middle School, one to the west of the police station, which includes 24 lots for single family as well as duplex residences, and one to the east of the traffic light at Route 108 on Saugatucket. These properties are all in the Veolia Water District. That is just a small example of development that's going on. As noted in the report, Rhode Island Water 2030, and I quote, "The common practice of the extension of distribution systems without consideration of having the quantity of water needed to fill those lines needs to stop." It is unconscionable that development be allowed to continue without adequate water supply and a plan to improve the situation. My fear is that in the not-too-distant future, customers in this water district will be showering on odd, even days year-round. South Kingstown, we have a water problem. The Rhode Island Water 2030 report states that southern Rhode Island is groundwater dependent and lacks storage capacity. Can you tell us what that means? Can you tell us how it will be fixed? There are currently 6 wells from which the water is drawn, according to everything I found. Do we need more wells? Certainly more towers. It's my understanding that the towers are necessary to maintain pressure within the system. If the pressure falls, then the risk of contaminants finding their way into our water supply increases, thus the ban. Demand is going up as more people are added to the Veolia water district lines. I wonder, are realtors who are selling homes upward of $600,000 and $700,000 informing their new residents that they will soon watch their trees and shrubs die, that they can't wash their cars, and that the grandkids can't have the slip and slide? We depend on those we elect to take care of the town's residents. Those responsibilities lie with you. We need a solution to the problem of our water supply and delivery. Continued development, adding to the already overburdened water system, needs to be halted and reevaluated. And I would like some answers, and I'm sure many of us would. I don't know how to get those answers, but I would like that.
Thank you. Appreciate your concerns, and hopefully we'll be providing answers to your questions momentarily. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience like to speak at this time?
Chris Iredale, Wakefield. Excuse me. I was wondering if it has ever been given any thought for the town of South Kingstown to buy water from Kingston Water District, which has never had a water ban. They have tons of water. They never have a ban. People use it. They have plenty. Why can't we get some of theirs? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Feel free to come on up.
My name is Glenn Ramsey. It's my wife, Karen. Ramsey is a Scottish name, which means I'm very quiet and grumble a lot. My wife, as you may have guessed, is not Scottish. She's Italian. Okay? Telling an Italian that they can't have a garden is a bad idea. Telling an Italian to kill their tomatoes.
Just bring this up a little closer. There you go.
She's also shorter than I am. Okay. Telling an Italian to kill her tomatoes when they're just beginning to ripen is a very bad idea. It's a complex issue, but as the last speaker just said, we've got a water district that never has a ban and another water district that always has a ban. Can't we move water from one to the other? I don't know, build a Roman aqueduct, something. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. But what really concerns me, and this is just from driving around town, all the development seems to be in the water district that doesn't have the infrastructure to support it. This makes no sense to me. And one more thing, that's a supply side problem. Okay, on the demand side, my kids have all left home. We have a garden, but I can't outside water. Why can't I take fewer showers and water my garden? Why can't we allocate water differently than outside and inside? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else in the audience like to speak? If so, come on up. Seeing none? All right, we're going to move to the town manager's report. And Jim, I think for the sake of interest, we could move the water ban up.
Yes, Mr. Council President, I will speak about the water ban first. There are three items that I will be talking about. The water ban first. Second will be the DOT maintenance program on Old Tower Hill Road, and the third will be the crisis intervention team success story we just had. So let's talk about the townwide water ban. I am not a civil engineer. I'm not a subject matter expert in this. Any information I've gotten from the experts, civil engineer that we have, Mr. John Schock, and other engineers that also work for the town. I'll give you a general overview, and then I will turn it over to Mr. Schock to answer the very difficult questions about how we could solve this. So our elected officials, you five, are very interested in this topic. That was one of the questions Mrs. Ramsey had. What are our elected officials saying? I know you all are very involved in this because you've asked me many times about the status and where we go from here. I'll go over some statistics with you that we can speak about. About 81% of the town is on some type of water system. And either Veolia, SK, or Kingston Water District. So Veolia has about 5,200 accounts here in town. Kingston, South Shore, and Middlebridge has about 2,800 accounts. Kingston Water District has about 1,200 accounts. Total parcels on all municipal water systems is 9,200. About 8,000 on Veolia and SK water systems. So there's about 11,300 developed parcels in town. Once again, about 81% are on some type of municipal water. I live in town. I have a well. It's 330 feet deep, and even a well that goes that deep into the bedrock, which is about 280 feet into the bedrock, I still have water issues. That I can notice the difference in the summer. I can notice the difference that it tastes different, it flows different, and my water pressure goes down for wherever it's worth. If you look at statistical analysis from 2008 to 2022, we've had 5 full water bans. 2022, which we're in now. 2020, we had a full ban on weekends only. 2016, full ban on weekends. 2010, full ban on weekends. 2008, full ban on weekends. 2022 is a full ban, once again. About 2 weeks ago, Director Schock came to me and said, Veolia is recommending that we have a full water ban. And the first question that came up was why? And tell me, statistically and operationally why this is needed. Basically, it came down to this. The towers could not replenish the water that was being used during the day. They'd go up a foot and down 2, was the example I was given, in the course of a day. It was estimated that much of this water was going to outside water use, specifically lawns. That's where one of the issues arose. Once the full ban went into effect, the system corrected itself marginally, but still not enough to bring it out of a full water ban. So I asked the same questions that members of our residents are asking. Can we put another well? The answer was no. It would not be advisable and probably would not pass through DEM. Next question asked is why? The Chappuxet aquifer that most of this town is on is already overtaxed. About 5.9 million gallons a day it could produce. We use about 6.3 million gallons in the course of any summer day average. What about towers? Could we use more towers to store more water? Once again, it goes back to that same conundrum. You would be pulling water, storing it from the same source. So really, if it already could be stored, it already would, is what I was informed. But also in the winter, we'd have excess water, which would cause issues with the water not being flushed quickly enough to keep it as pure as it is now. I asked the question, are there other aquifers in town that we could draw from? There's one in Green Hill that is separate from the main one, Chepuxet, but we have 3 wells there already in the ground. But there's a water filtration issue. In 2002, when Suez took over the water system here, where we started purchasing the water, we had to close those 3 wells because they did not meet the standard that was needed to provide purified drinking water to the town. What would it cost now to fix that? Be about a $12 million filtration system. Back when it was first studied, it was $5 to $7 million. It's about $12 million. That was just confirmed today as well by Director Schock. He called a municipality. He called Veolia, I believe, and there's a municipality in Massachusetts that has a similar type water system we have, and they just put a filtration system in, and it was $12 million. So what would if the 3 wells were open in Green Hill, how much more water would we be getting? The answer was when they were closed, we drew about 1.2 million gallons per day. That's not enough to get us out of a water ban, but it is enough to help. But once again, we get back to the price tag. And that amount of money would be passed on to the users. It's still in its infancy, but I am in correspondence with the congressional delegation's chief of staff, especially Senator Reid's chief of staff, who was here last week, and told him about this problem. He said the conversation would continue. Is there money to be earmarked that could help in the critical infrastructure for this town? He didn't have the answer, but that is the conversation we're having, and if it can be done, we will do our best to get it done. We have a slide presentation that I'll call Mr. Schock up to address. But first I want to say this. This is John's last meeting, 36 years. His institutional knowledge is second to none. He'll be missed. And I just want to bring that to the attention of the town council.
Lori, could you put the map up, please? So I'll just give a little more detail than what Jim provided. So this is essentially a map of the water utilities in town. There are 4 utilities with 5 separate service areas. The one in the turquoise blue, the University of Rhode Island has their own well field, their own water system. The one in yellow is Kingston Water District, and they service in proximity to the university. And then the purple at the bottom is the town's South Shore water system. And the orange to the east is the Middlebridge water system. And then the green, seafoam green, is Veolia, formerly Suez. So as it's now, Kingston Water, they have their own water supply. Suez or Veolia has theirs, and we're presently, since 2002, for South Shore, have been purchasing water from Veolia. We always purchase water from Veolia for Middlebridge. We have no source of supply there. So the manager is correct. Veolia and Kingston withdraw from the Chepuxet aquifer and the Mink. And back in 2014, the state did a study of the Mink aquifer in Chepuxet. And essentially, on a given July, the state has indicated that the aquifer is exceeding 6.2 million gallons a day than it should. So just keep that in perspective. And of that 6.2, 5.9 is the sum total for the water utilities withdrawing that aquifer. Think of it this way and say, if all the water utilities that are withdrawing from the Chepuxet stop withdrawing, there'd still be a 0.3 MGD deficit in the Chepuxet. So the likelihood of the state approving more source of supply in that aquifer is highly unlikely. Again, we do have a well field down in Green Hill. because of high iron levels, which are naturally occurring. We had to abandon, it's not abandoned, it's still active in Department of Health size, but we do need to build a filtration plant. And again, $12 million would be crippling to the ratepayers. So, you know, and it's not just storage, it's not just source supply, it's storage and it's transmission. You got to be able to get the water from point A to point B. So, you know, likely it would require upgrading the mains in the roads, which then require, you know, road restoration. It's going to require booster stations. So we're talking millions and millions of dollars for essentially, I'm going to say 6 to 8 weeks a year, where the primary purpose is for outside irrigation using potable water that meets the Safe Drinking Water Act for human consumption. That's a policy decision for the council, if we want to go down that road. It is complicated. We had a meeting with Kingston a couple of years ago, Suez or Veolia and us in Kingston, about interconnecting between Veolia and Kingston. Unfortunately, Kingston is higher gradient hydraulically than Veolia, so there's some hydraulics that have to be dealt with, not that it's impossible. And their water quality, their treatment is different than Suez. So there's also the water quality compatibility between the two utilities. Again, we can continue to have that discussion with Kingston. And just a little background with Kingston, keep in mind they lost APC and East Farm, their two biggest users. So that's essentially why they have a surplus right now. It's not that they're managing their system differently, it's that they've lost two of their biggest users. That's why at the present time they have a surplus. So we can gladly have that discussion again with Kingston and Veolia to see if an interconnection can be made, but there are some engineering issues that would have to be overcome. The other thing is, again, the manager's correct, southern part of the state, we all have groundwater supply. We don't have the vast water tanks are there to keep pressure in the system, and it's for fire protection, which is, but I want to discount because that's important, and to take off shaved peaks for essential uses. It's not, those tanks were, whether it's my system, Veolia's or Kingston, they're not designed for unlimited water associated with outside irrigation. They're just not designed that way. And we've got the other problem of, we've got a lot of water in the air during the wintertime, when we end up having a water quality problem. So I'll just say one other thing for purposes of comparison. So we typically, during the winter, this is for the South Shore system, just to give you an idea, we typically do about, say, 225,000 gallons a day. In the summertime, without restrictions, we're up to 800,000 gallons a day. And as soon as we put those restrictions in place, we drop down to about 450. So the restrictions work. And it shows you that, you know, almost 400,000 gallons a day is going for outside irrigation. So those are the kind of order of magnitude that we're dealing with and trying to try to provide water unlimited at all times. So I don't know if that provides any more background or not, but it is complicated and it's not an easy solution. And whatever the solution is, it's going to be expensive. That would have to be burdened by the ratepayers.
Thank you, John. Any questions from the members for John while we have him?
John, so I've heard that if a homeowner fills a watering can inside, they can go and pour it on their tomato plants. And
we're not going to, anybody who has a watering can, or even if they have a hose bib, it's the unattended hose bibs and the automatic sprinklers that we just can't keep up with.
And then just one other, this is going way back, but it's my recollection that maybe in the 70s, there was talk about creating a southern reservoir out in Carolina or the Big River.
Yeah, the Rhode Island Water Resources Board, I served on the board for about 10 years. They did do well exploration in South County. So there's a number of areas they have earmarked for groundwater supply wells. Of course, there's Big River that EPA vetoed.
Can you remind us why that was vetoed?
So my memory serves me correct. EPA vetoed Big River because the water utilities at that time had a lot of unaccounted for water, a lot of lost water, and EPA said, why should we grant another reservoir when water utilities aren't being efficient with what they're producing? Which at that time they were probably right, but of course there's a lot of efficiencies now with the new metering systems that I'd like to say the utilities don't have that problem anymore.
Do you think that that's a conversation that could be restarted with the EPA at any point?
I think it's important, and I have another reason, because if Providence goes down, Providence Water Supply Board goes down, remember they lost one of their aqueducts a few years ago? Probably 70% of the state's without water. I think Big River is more important as a backup source of supply for Providence and to deal with these types of issues. So I think that has merit. Whether we can get water from Big River down this way, it can be done, but again, there's an expense associated with that.
Go ahead, Deb.
So I've seen some people watering and they have a sign on their lawn. This irrigation system is powered by a well. They've obviously installed a well. They're not using sewage or Viola or South Shore. Do you have any idea what that would cost a homeowner to put in their own well? Just ballpark it?
I don't, but I would think it'd be upwards of it depends on how deep they have to go. I mean, 5,000 to 10,000,
okay,
somewhere around there.
So that's an option for somebody
Correct.
who wants to water and have their own well dug.
Yes.
And then my other question about monitoring. I guess I just recently learned that you can monitor who's continuing to water even though the ban is happening.
Correct. We, at least with our metering system, I can't speak for Kingston or Veolia, but we can look daily as to see what people are using for water.
So you could kind of guess who's
Correct.
got their sprinklers running right.
If we have a sense of that, we'll go out and look, but we need to physically see somebody doing it. We just can't rely on the water readings, but we have an idea on who's using what
Okay.
on any given day.
So this was really helpful. I know that you explain it all the time or annually, but I think it's still helpful to hear it explained in a way that the non-professional engineers in the room, all of us but you, maybe there's one other, but
understands
it.
Southern New England, compared to elsewhere in the country, is very water plentiful. I mean, if you hear what's going on out west, I mean, California,
I know.
They have water allocation per customer,
Right.
which is, to me, is a nightmare to try to administer. I know this gentleman back here talked about water allocation. But, I mean, we're actually really lucky compared to elsewhere in the country. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in the Southwest. They've got a real problem. They've got a problem now, but it's only going to get worse.
So my other thought, and I know that I think Councilwoman Rose spoke to Rich Bourbonnais about rain barrels, and because I don't think a lot of people can or want to spend $5,000 on water, but could we work on a grant program to get rain barrels? That might be a way to water people's plants without them doing that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any grant programs for rain barrels. I mean, that may be something we'd be able to purchase, and then a resident can buy them at cost from us. Of course, they can go out and you can order them from Amazon,
Right.
probably just as cheap as we can get them.
Right.
But, rain barrels are a good idea.
I mean, even if it was the natural resource officer working on a grant or anything to help, because I think it's becoming about education, like we're being more creative, like we're filling things inside and we're bringing a water can outside. But if we had a barrel of water, we might do it that way.
Jim, did you
I could
have
just-
an update on that? I know
Sure.
we talked about it very briefly, but
Yes. Councilwoman Rose brought that to my attention about a month ago, asked us to research it. Mark Russo researched it. As far as using water barrels for municipal buildings, I'm not sure there is an application for that, but John just brought up a good point. Maybe we could research getting them at some type of cost for our residents to utilize that water.
there is a program through the Great American Rain Barrel Company
There is.
that works with municipalities to get rain barrels out at a low cost or no cost to residents. So we can continue to look into that. I think that we have a lot of people here who would likely take advantage of it.
I'm sorry, what's the name of that again?
The Great American Rain Barrel Company.
Okay.
They service several municipalities in Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire.
Yeah, John, we have that. Mark was looking into that already.
John, first of all, I just want to say thank you for your many years of service and the education you've provided me. I appreciate it. I'm sure everybody in this room agrees. Enjoy your retirement.
It's been a rewarding career. And I will say I hope that the infrastructure that we've completed under my tenure has made a better quality of life for everybody, but I want to just say it's not me, it's my staff. I can't do it without the staff. The men and women are very dedicated. I also want to thank the council and prior councils. You folks have been very supportive, as Manager Manny and the prior managers, because we can't do anything without funding. Everything we do is a function of funding. So I appreciate all the support everybody's given us over the years.
Now, Mike, thank you. Thank you again for all your service. My question is, if we just limit outdoor sprinklers, the automatic lawn sprinklers, would that be effective enough to allow people to water their gardens? So if something is food, it's different than an ornamental shrub, right? So
So I've had that discussion with the general manager from Veolia, and again, both of us, we're in agreement. It's okay for vegetables, but we already had somebody said, well, I have flowers, I have shrubs. I mean, that's the problem, is where do you draw the line? And it becomes then an enforcement issue for us. We've only got 2 people in the water district, in the water department, for us to go out and say, okay, you're doing a vegetable garden, but you're not doing a vegetable, but you're doing a lawn. I mean, I can talk to the general manager again tomorrow and see if we can relax it. The only thing I can worry about is we're going to get off to the races again, and everybody's going to be irrigating their lawns. The lawns are by far the biggest problem, no question about it.
Right. So rain barrels are a great idea, but you need rain, and we haven't had that. So those rain barrels right now would be empty. So I'm looking to try to find a solution to help the Ramseys let their tomatoes flourish, right? And maybe we could put it out there that vegetables are okay. Again, I think you might notice on your daily report that somebody was using lawn sprinklers, not watering a vegetable garden. So maybe we can find a way to make this outdoor water ban pertain to the frivolous uses, not the uses that people are, of food. And maybe we should start an education program trying to help people understand drought-resistant, ornamental landscaping. Maybe we could look into that, try to put some grant money to, we'll help you change from the green grass that needs all this water to a more drought-resistant, because this isn't going to get any better. We know that. Climate change is here. It's not going to get any better. So we need to change our habits to conform.
Everybody loves a green lawn.
About the usage goes along with the lifting of restrictions. Maybe people will, I don't know, their better nature will kick in, and they won't. Those
of any
See, he's been here a long time and well appreciated. I guess my question is first of all, why we don't have somebody from Veolia, however you pronounce it, here, so we can ask them questions, because they're the biggest water supplier in our town, and I'm not supplied by the town of South Kingstown. I'm supplied by them. And I think that the other thing that a lot of residents don't understand is that we do have 2 separate water systems in town. We have the South Shore Water System, which is run by the town of South Kingstown, and we have what I used to call Wakefield Water, which is in town. I don't remember a ban before Factory Pond went down. I just don't remember it ever happening. I mean, if somebody knows that, let me know. I really think that the problem is we have supply, but when Factory Pond went down and the town decided to buy the water from Wakefield Water, it took a lot of water. So now what's happening is that we're adding houses all the time. I mean, if we have a supply issue, then we need to take the bull by the horns and say nobody can hook up to the water system anymore because we have a supply issue. But do we have a supply issue? I really think that we should have done something at Factory Pond years ago. The problem is that Factory Pond, as you know, it's like the sewer system. You know, the ratepayers pay for what happens down there. So whatever you do down in Green Hill, I don't pay anything for because I'm on a different water system. So I understand that. They would bite, it would be a big task for those people down there to do it. Maybe it needs to be bonded, but we can't keep doing this year after year, adding more people onto the system and not have some kind of plan to end it. I mean, there's got to be a way we can end this water problem. I mean, people have little children. There's seaweed all over the beach, as you know, I'm sure, and you can't take your kids out on your lawn and run them through a sprinkler on these hot days. Can't do it. It's almost not fair, you know. So then the other thing I want to talk about is the water towers. I mean, we're running two separate systems. So when the town buys, John, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but when the town buys water from Veolia, goes into the towers down in Snug Harbor and Matunic, we own the water. Town owns the water. It doesn't go back the other way. That's why John's saying it stays there in the towers when the summer's over and doesn't get used because everybody's left Matunic and Green Hill. Doesn't happen in other towns like that. Westerly has a big community, Mesquamaket, Weekapaug, Watch Hill. They fill up the towers that feed those, but they don't have that problem because they're all interconnected. So when the people in Watch Hill, Mesquamaket, and Weekapaug leave and go home, they just draw the water off in the Westerly system from those towers. We don't do that because they're not connected. So what I'm saying is that we need to really do a system survey here, I think, and figure out how we can solve this problem. The other thing too is if we have a real problem, why is Veolia still allowing tanker trucks to run down off Tuckertown Road and fill them up for fill pools? I mean, that doesn't seem like we have a real problem when that's going on. So anyway, I think we need to do a lot of work. And I think Veolia needs to be involved in this.
Thanks, Gary. Jim, let's get a hold of Veolia, have a rep come to the next meeting if they're available. That way we can get direct answers to questions from them.
Will do.
Thank you, Jim. All right, I do want to acknowledge John. Congratulations on your retirement. A well-earned, hard-working career. We've been fortunate to work with you here at better end, but is not from so. That'll
is it on the drink. Okay. Everyone notices it. We all do. It's very unsightly. It borders on unsafe, and it needed to be fixed. One of the first orders of business I did was contact Rhode Island DOT. The director, and we got on it. And he been every twice. Over 10 could have and this, so that when the water goes in there, the grasses, the vegetation filters them, and then whatever's left goes and the thing that we've noticed is that where these native grasses did not take, or they were planted at the wrong time, no one really knows. And there's only 2 out of the 24 that can be salvaged. That weeds grow. And there was a misconception that the weeds were the natural grasses. They might be grasses, but they're not natural to what we wanted there. And some are over 3 feet high. We walked just last Tuesday and Wednesday. I had the Assistant Director Rocchio come down. I asked him to meet me at 8:30. We parked and we walked each one, photographed it, videotaped it. It was actually very comical what happened. Anywhere from 10 to 12 people stopped their cars, some abruptly, yelled and screamed at us, fixed the problem they were yelling, clapping, thumbs up, glad someone's doing something. And actually a couple of shop owners came out when they saw us walking the property and photographing it, and one of them asked me, do you know anyone at the town that can help us? So that was actually pretty funny. But, Mr. Rocchio actually said to me, you staged this. He said, there's no way that this is, I said, no. And we were only there 15 minutes. It was not staged. So thank you to all the residents that came out and supported us without knowing they were supporting us. The bottom line is this. We're going to fix it. And we're going to do it as quickly as we can. And DOT has vowed from the director down that they will assist South Kingston in doing this. They will take over the project. They admitted we own it. So within short order, and I have a timeline that I was given that I'm going to hold them to tomorrow morning when I have my 4th meeting with them, that all this errant vegetation will be taken out and cleaned. There's some standing water in some that we got to figure out how to drain it better, just one of those. And there's a couple of broken fences, which they've already repaired, the ones that were broken by snow plows and other stuff. And they've bought extras so that we'll have them for years to come. It's going to, even if we clean them out within the next couple of weeks, we can't plant new vegetation in this heat. It will have the same effect. So as long as it's cleaned out and people see this progress, I'm okay with the fall, once the cooler weather gets here, to get the vegetation in that we need. And that they will reevaluate the stuff that they're putting in the ground to make sure that it will last. If you look at the center medians, this vegetation took there, and except for a handful of big weeds, it worked. It just didn't work on the sidewalks. The other, this is going to be an ongoing issue. We're going to see it happen again and again. But DOT has vowed that they will hire a landscaper to come periodically, weed, replant as needed, and also the town has to put some skin in the game with this. I vowed that we would also help them to maintain the beauty of these when they're not there. So help's on the way. I've heard people loud and clear. Actually, someone from my old job asked me, what's the biggest thing you get the most complaints on now that you're town manager? I had to really think about it, and it's the weeds. Dozens of them, dozens of complaints. So we hear you loud and clear. We're going to get it fixed, and hopefully it's within short order. The third thing I will speak about is CIT, or Crisis Intervention Team. This is training that there are 8 South Kingston police officers that are certified in this, 6 more are being sent to the school, and I was just notified that our director of EMS, Mr. Stanley, has 2 people certified, and he plans on certifying everyone else that works in EMS. Just the reason I'm speaking about it now is last Wednesday we had an issue here in town with someone at the Johnny Cake Center that had a mental health issue. And the police showed up, and they did such a great job with not only de-escalating it, but getting this person the resources and the help they needed. In the 4 decades I was in law enforcement, we were not trained in this at all in the 80s when I came into this line of work, into that line of work. And not that police overreacted, just many people had mental health issues and they were arrested, charged with disorderly conduct. And the chief and I were talking about that today. We've come a long, long way. Police officers are all receive mental health training at the Municipal Academy. Every South officer has, and that's only been in the past 20 years or so. But we have a long way to go. So our goal is to get as many police officers certified in this town. Our EMS has already addressed the issue, and I'm happy to report that was a very positive thing that happened last Wednesday, that our officers did that. And one last thing on that. When I brought to the chief's attention about that someone had approached us and was very happy with the way that was handled, he said to me, we do this stuff every day. So a lot of it's occurring that's off the radar that no one even knows about. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for the members for Jim relative to the manager's report? Go ahead, Deb.
Just quickly, Jim. In the future, when we do sort of roadway changes, I know that this was a recent change, we wouldn't necessarily choose this design again, would we? Because it seems like it's person-intensive in terms of maintenance and repairs. Are there more cost-effective ways to landscape or meet the needs of pedestrians and bicyclists that we could pursue in the future?
So once again, that's one of the questions I asked. Obviously, there's more cost-effective ways, all cement and drains underneath. Mm-hmm. But there were people trying to do the right thing by the town and trying to put the most beautiful things they could. But it was a new concept. And Director Alviti actually said that. He says, I don't think anyone really knew just how labor-intensive it was to keep these up or how tough it would be to maintain them. But, of course, that's something that we will always look and vet out for the future.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Okay. It's going to bring us to item 11, appointments.
I make a resolution that we reappoint Callie Babbitt Spears to the Affordable Housing Collaborative.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed?
300th anniversary person? Is that what you're saying, Deb? I don't have.
Make a resolution appointing Mr. Ronald Bergeron to the 300th anniversary committee.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That's going to bring us to item 12. 12A is a resolution requesting the Secretary of State place a local referendum question on the ballot for the November 8, 2022 general election relative to amending the town charter, Article 4, Administrative Departments and Procedures, Section 4920, Zoning Board of Review as follows. Shall Section 4920 of the Town Charter be amended to provide the Zoning Board shall consist of 5 members and 3 alternate members?
Motion to approve 12A.
We have a motion and a second. Any 12C, which is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Stillman Uniforms of Westerly, Rhode Island for point-blank soft-body armor per the unit prices as submitted by bid on July 12, 2022. Unit pricing to be held through June 30, 2023, with the option to extend one additional year through June 30, 2024, inclusive, if mutually agreeable to both parties, and as further described in a memorandum from the police chief to the town manager dated July 12, 2022.
Motion to approve item 12C.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. It's going to bring us to item D, which is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Arden Engineering Constructors, LLC of Pawtucket, Rhode Island for the procurement and installation of 3 HVAC mini-split systems in the town council chambers in accordance with all bid specifications in an amount not to exceed $49,000, including a contingency, and as further described in a memorandum from the facilities superintendent to the town manager dated July 13, 2022.
Motion to approve 12D.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Aye.
We have Mark. We want to bring up Mark?
Yeah.
Come on up.
Thank you.
Good evening. Mark Rousseau, Facility Superintendent.
Thank Mark.
As Jim
Just
takes
sort of
his
want
coat
to
off.
give us a sort of briefing as to what's going on here, generally.
Yeah, we have been budgeting for air conditioning in this room for a number of years. And, I mean, I remember talking to Joe Veely about it for probably 6 years that he was on the council. We brought in one of our heating and air conditioning contractors, and they did a manual J calculation on this room, which equaled 6 tons of cooling, or 72,000 BTU. And we can accomplish that by putting in 3 2-ton units. So one would go here under that window, the window behind me, and one right here. And they'd all be on their own wired thermostats, so they'd be programmable, so they could come up the temperature, shut off at night, and run seamlessly. And they are also heat pumps, so in the winter we could grab some of that latent heat from outside and put it into the building and cut down on our gas usage, our natural gas usage, to heat the hot water.
So, Mark, is there a way to install it without taking away from the historic aesthetic appeal that we have in here?
With those units, I don't know if you have them in your homes or not, but the cassettes are 36 inches long by 10 inches deep, and they would mount right on the wall. So there's no historic building. What's the word I'm looking for? We can't. It's not going to be infringing on that historic building, because we're just in a historic district. So anything we do to the outside of the building, we might have to discuss that with the Historic District Commission. But on the interior, yeah, we're good to go with that.
Got it. Any other questions for Mark?
Just one question. Someone had said that the splits are sort of more expensive to repair and maintain as compared to ductless? Or ducted?
Or ducted, yes.
Ducted, sorry.
Well, I actually had one put in my house on Saturday, and it was relatively inexpensive. I mean, they're the parts that could be interchangeable.
Okay.
If you have a ducted system, you have a large air handler out on the roof. If something happens there, you have to change not only the coil, but the inside evaporator as well.
Right.
So, because you can't interchange those units.
Okay. So there's three of them, and you said this wall, that?
This underneath this window here, right here, and underneath that window over there. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever been in the Kingston, the Peacedale Congregational Church or the Wakefield Baptist Church, but they're on their walls as well, and I'll tell you, they work well.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
So there was a motion, there was a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, this motion passes. It's going to bring us to item E, which is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Student Transportation of America, doing business as Ocean State Transit of West Kingston, Rhode Island, for bus transportation services in accordance with all bidding specifications at unit prices as bid for a 3-year contract from July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2025, in an amount not to exceed $5,048 for fiscal year 2022-2023, $6,000 for fiscal year 2023-2024, and $7,000 for fiscal year 2024 through 2025, subject to annual appropriation of funding and as further described in a memorandum from the Director of Leisure Services to the Town Manager dated July 12, 2022.
Motion to approve item 12E.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That'll bring us to item F, which is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to East Coast Seal Coating Incorporated of Abington, Massachusetts for crack repair and resurfacing of the basketball court at Old Mountain Field, tennis and basketball courts at West Kingston and Tuckertown Parks, and tennis courts at the Village Green in accordance with all bid specifications in an amount not to exceed $83,900, and as further described in a memorandum from the Director of Leisure Services to the Town Manager dated July 18, 2022.
Motion to approve item 12F.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That'll bring us to item G, which is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Atlantic Control Systems Incorporated of Exeter, Rhode Island for municipal subcontractor excavating services for a 2-year contract for the period July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2024 at the unit prices bid and as further detailed in a memorandum from the Public Services Director to the Town Manager dated July 13, 2022.
Motion to approve item 12G.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. It's going to bring us to item I, which is a resolution authorizing the town's emergency medical services to implement an EMS medical standby fee at the overtime rate for EMS personnel, currently $42.67 per hour and $35 per hour for equipment/vehicle, and amending the EMS billing fee schedule and the town's schedule of fees, as further described in a memorandum from the Chief of EMS to the Town Manager dated July 19, 2022.
Motion to approve item 12I.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anyone opposed? Oh, sorry, any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Item J is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to ATS Equipment Incorporated of Rehoboth, Mass. for a Dynapac CC900G asphalt roller in an amount not to exceed $20,250, and as further described in a memorandum from the Public Services Director to the Town Manager dated July 19, 2022.
Motion to approve item 12J.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Item K is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Bobcat of Rhode Island, of Warwick, Rhode Island, for a 2022 T62 compact track loader in an amount not to exceed $51,306, with $1,306 in funding from the Capital Equipment Reserve Fund, and as further described in a memorandum from the Public Services Director to the Town Manager dated July 19, 2022.
Motion to approve item 12K.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Item M is a resolution authorizing the tax assessor to abate taxes in the total amount of $60,237.83 as shown on tax abatement request number 604.
Motion to approve item 12M.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Item N is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to AT Northern Warwick of Warwick, Rhode Island for a 2024 International HV 507 dump truck with Viking stainless steel sanding body, Viking snowplow, and pre-wet system in an amount not to exceed $216,995, as further described in a memorandum from the Public Services Director to the Town Manager dated July 19, 2022.
Motion to approve item 12N.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That'll bring us to the end of our regular session here. We will now move into executive session upon a motion. Thank you for everyone's time.
into 2-46-5A1 to discuss matters pertaining to personnel regarding James M. Manny, Town Manager.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, we will now enter closed executive session. Thank you.
Just for purposes of the public session, Mr. Manny was given his statutory notice about the fact that he would be discussed in executive session this evening.